Good morning, everyone. We'd like to start the meeting. Sorry for the delay, but as we said before, we do have a more higher attendance, higher than usual. So we want to welcome everyone who's here. We do have really strong attendance today. So I am going to remind everyone, and I'm going to repeat this maybe a number of times because we do need to remind people to show courtesy and respect to both councils. As people are putting good morning, everyone, I agree. Right now, we're just going to remind everyone to, as I'm doing the housekeeping rules, at the same time, you will see the sign says, please mute your microphones. So other speakers can come in. And as other people are coming in, they are just pulling in. We are expecting higher numbers. So I am going to remind everyone, we do have some upgraded changes that just came in. Normally, you will see a picture with a hand. Instead, you're going to see in the bottom next to the chat system a little small smiley face plus button. That is another way to get into raise your hand and do your emojis at the same time. And I am going to remind people that who are coming in to please mute, please, because we have to keep the microphones right now in one setting at this time, one at a time, so we don't have any issues or concern. As a reminder, you, the emoji button is located next to the chat. It has the hand raised inside of it and does have others saying yes, no, be back 5 minutes or whatever. It is available there. So I am going to remind everyone, please use those. If you don't have it, please use the chat box. And please make sure you have attention to me, Deborah Greif, Joyce Levin, or Brian, or me as well, Chris Greif, which is on the Advisory Council page. Please make sure that you please do that at this time. As a remind you, as I'm clicking right now at the same time, we are experiencing high attendance votes, more vote numbers. So I am going to remind everyone, please use the hand raise or please use the chat box. We will be watching it at this time. If you need caption, please go to the more, and caption is available there as well. So let's please try to use that at this time, and please use the devices that we use. When it's questions, and when we're up to questions, we'll ask you please have your hand raised or please put your comment into the chat. So therefore, we can make sure what we're reading at this time. So therefore, I'd like to move on to our agenda and proceed. And I remind you, please keep your microphones unmuted. I need a motion for the joint meeting minutes. And note that the recording minutes are available also on our website. I need a motion.
I, Deborah Greif, make a motion to accept the minutes.
I second the motion.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, ladies, both chairs, thank you. Now I want to welcome everyone again to our joint meeting today. And I know it's now the nice fall weather. We're enjoying a beautiful day today. Before I do our speaker, Joyce, do you want to introduce the speaker?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Good morning, everybody. Are they here? Susan and William, right?
Hi, yes, I'm on.
Oh, yes. Hi.
Hey,
okay.
Joyce. How are
Hi.
you? Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much for having us.
That's okay. I appreciate that you guys could come and make the time. So we're going to let you guys go first and do your presentation so you don't have to stick around for everything. So I'd like to introduce Suzanne Jardine and William Greendyke from the New York City Office of Mental Health. Thank you. So go ahead, you guys could take it over.
Thank you. Will is going to give a presentation. He's going to share his screen momentarily.
Give me 1 second. This is newer software for me, so.
Oh, it's coming up. I see. It's loading. There you go.
Okay, great.
William, before you start, can you please put it on the slideshow so people can see it a little larger? This is Chris.
Is it not showing? It's taking
No,
up my.
it's showing as a presentation that you like with the notes on the side. If you,
Oh,
yeah, if
Yeah,
you put it to
I'm
the full screen.
this is Deborah Greif, the other co-chair, the chair of the advisory council. Can you make it a little larger? Because I do have issue with my right eye now. I want to
yeah.
be able to see. Thank you.
Is that better?
So if you go scroll down to the bottom right hand corner, there should, and you scroll over, there should be an option to just have it full screen.
Hmm.
For this
Yeah.
You can
You
also
see
go
it?
up to the top left and hit from beginning. You see the
Oh,
top
there you
left
go.
above the
Yes,
first
you're
slide.
right.
Hit
Oh,
from
that's
beginning. A little bit low.
Sorry. It's showing me. Let me.
To the left where it says from beginning.
Yeah. Let's see if that works.
Is that on my screen? It's showing the full.
Oh,
It's
it
taking
is.
up the
Huh, I
full
wonder
screen.
if it's frozen.
Let me try this. I apologize.
No problem. Let me see if I can open
There is
this.
the other way. Use the from beginning part. That works.
Let's see.
No. Nope, sorry. Yeah, what's on my screen is different than what you guys are seeing. Let me.
Would it be helpful, Chris or Joyce, if we sent this to you right now? Or, I mean, let me just try from my screen to see if I'm able to do it. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to do the share as well.
It's much better now.
That's
It
better.
doesn't
That's
show.
much better.
Okay.
Much
Oh, okay,
better.
perfect. Okay.
Thank
Never
you
mind.
very much.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
seems to have some trouble putting it in slideshow mode for some reason. So what I'll do is just feel free to ignore what's at the top. But if this works for everybody, then I'll go ahead.
This part's fine. I can see it.
Yeah,
Thank
this is
you very
fine.
much.
Okay. Well, sorry for the technical hiccup, but as Sue Ann mentioned, really excited to be able to join you guys, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to come speak to you. So my name's Will Greendyke. I'm a infectious disease physician with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I sit within the Bureau of Communicable Disease, and here today to talk to you about a project that Sue Ann and I are helping to launch in the IDD group home setting, which is an infection control needs assessment. So let me make sure I can scroll down. So giving you an introduction, so I'll talk a little bit about the background about where this project sort of originated from in terms of funding from the CDC, talk about the what we think is really the value of learning needs assessments in the IDD setting, and what our overall approach is and the project goal. So this starts out with from an initiative that the CDC is putting out called Project First Line. It's a nationwide initiative to really sort of bolster infection control, capacity nationwide, and they're really taking a sort of a newer approach with how they're trying to roll this out. Because historically, a lot of infection control initiatives and education have really just been targeted towards physicians and nurses in acute care hospitals. And I think there's been, certainly with COVID, as well as, even sort of prior to that, a realization that there are a lot of other sort of players on the healthcare team who would really benefit from sort of increased sort of awareness and training as it pertains to infection control. So this is certainly informed by what transpired over the last 2 years. 2.5 years with the COVID-19 pandemic, but is not sort of specific to COVID. It really applies sort of broadly in terms of infection control, no matter what the sort of infectious disease is. And one of the components of that is that the CDC asks jurisdictions who are participating with this is to conduct a learning needs assessment of staff to help inform the development and delivery of CDC training. In terms of why this is, I think, kind of particularly important for the IDD settings. I think one thing that we really collectively probably could have done a lot better over the COVID-19 pandemic is realizing that the IDD population has not really been historically prioritized for what we would call infection control capacity building. So making sure that people are trained appropriately, making sure that people have the right PPE, making sure that people know where to go in order to get informed about best practices for infection control. We really want to change that. And so I really view this learning needs assessment that we're going to be conducting as an opportunity to really continue to advocate for the IDD community, both sort of on a local and state level, as well as more nationally, and really trying to highlight to the CDC that while the needs in the IDD community might overlap a lot with other types of long-term care settings like nursing homes, they are distinct, and we want to really highlight where there are areas that there might need to be sort of special emphasis or resources devoted to building IDD infection control capacity. So the overall goal would then be to create a long-term tailored sustainable infection control framework for IDD congregate settings. So what we're doing for this listening assessment, we are doing a two-phased approach. Phase one really emphasizing, what's going on at sort of a high level within the IDD group home settings. And then phase two, really hearing from frontline staff like DSPs in terms of what's going on in the IDD group home setting. So like I said, the target population is for staff of group homes for individuals with developmental disabilities, intellectual and developmental disabilities in New York, looking to connect with all 87 IDD organizations with the goal, as I mentioned before, to really try to build out a more sustainable framework for infection control moving forward. So the first phase that we're doing is a web-based survey that is going to go to leadership and managerial staff of organizations that operate IDD group homes. It's a 45-question survey that takes about 20 minutes to complete, really just trying to get a sense of what the lay of the land is at sort of a high level in terms of current infection control practices and what the perceived needs are. We're looking to launch the survey hopefully within the next week or so. And we'll use the results of the web-based survey to inform the second phase of the project. So the second phase, as I mentioned, is directed more towards frontline healthcare personnel at IDD group homes. We're going to be conducting listening sessions where we can hear directly from them about what their perceived needs are in terms of infection control, how comfortable they are with infection control practices, and how we can best support them. So we're looking to launch that phase in the first quarter of 2023, depending on approval from our institutional review board, as well as the results of the web-based survey. We'll use those results from phase one to help inform what we ask about in phase two. So in terms of support from our OPWDD partners, we're really looking to try to maximize reach. We'd love to hear from all 87 organizations if at all possible. And again, I think, really the novel approach here that the IDD population has not been a target for IPC infection control interventions in education, I think really gives us a great opportunity to again, sort of blaze a trail and advocate for the IDD community at a larger level. So that's all I have by way of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback that folks may have. And again, just really want to thank you guys so much for giving us the opportunity to come speak to you and talk about what we have planned. So I'll pause there and see if folks have any feedback.
Before we do any questions for people, I know that. Excuse me, can we have a mute, please? Because it's very hard. I got to keep the microphones on. Thank you. Before we do questions, Joyce or Deborah, do one of you guys have questions for them?
I do. Hey, first of all, this is an excellent presentation. I really appreciate it because it's truthfully, the developmental disability world has been ignored many times by the other agencies. But one suggestion I have is, even though individuals may live in a group home, they have still family, and also, just hear me all out. They do have family, and a lot of times the family also is their guardian. I just like if you could also have information so that the family can understand what you're trying to do, because sometimes people will misinterpret exactly what you're trying to do. I think it's a great idea because we need to help make sure our individuals don't get sick or bring, like when they come visit their family at home, they don't actually bring it. So I'm very pleased to see this. And I know my other counterparts in the other 18 counties of develop with have advisory councils. We appreciate this tremendously.
Yeah, no, thank you for that feedback, and I think that's a good thing to keep in mind with families, particularly acting as sort of caregivers or coming to visit, making sure that they're up to speed as well. So thanks for that.
Yeah, because we do need to make sure that they understand, because what you're trying to do is excellent, but I don't want people do misinterpret, and I don't want a problem because this is needs to be done so that we can keep our individuals as healthy as possible. So thank you.
Great, thanks for that.
Joyce?
Yes, so my question is, because I did hear your presentation when you presented last Thursday at IAC. And I know you were going to be contacting, you said today as well, you'd be contacting the various agencies to set up the meetings so you could do this this project. So my question is, how are you going to encourage direct care workers to participate in this? And I guess it's twofold. How are you going to capture everybody? Because there's different shifts. You have midnight shifts, you have 8 to 4 and 4 to 12.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, and one we're sort of thinking through the details as well. So in terms of hearing from the DSPs, what we're really doing for these listening sessions is really looking for just a representative sample of DSPs, so not necessarily all of them. We are working to we are hoping to provide monetary incentives for DSPs to participate. So we hope that will increase participation. And in terms of the actual recruitment, I think we'll be in discussion, I think, with some of these organizations in terms of helping to identify people that we could potentially approach.
I have just one more question. Sorry. How long does each session take?
So we're planning on an hour or an hour and a half.
I have to tell you, that's a long time.
Okay.
You're going to lose people. Yep.
That's good to know. So would you think something shorter? And again, we're still in the planning stages, so we do have time to adjust. And I certainly would value feedback. So you think like 45 minutes, would that be more realistic?
Yeah, 45 minutes tops. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for that. That's helpful.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
No, Joyce, those are very important questions, and I agree. Brian, Vice Chair, do you have a question? Brian?
No, I don't.
All right, just making sure. We do have a hand raise. 2022, can you please identify yourself?
Oh, hi, Chris. It's Carrie. Carrie
Mhm.
Banks from Brooklyn Public Library. I'm sorry, I can't manage to rename myself.
We'll
But
talk
here I
about it
am.
another time.
Yeah, I have a question. Or actually, I have a comment. A lot of times we see information coming from the state and the Department of Health and Mental Health, and the written information is written at about a college or graduate school level. But meantime, so many of the people who many people read at about the 5th grade level, even when they have
I think you've gone on mute.
Carrie,
How did
this
I
is
get on? Okay. I'm not sure where I stopped, but this is basically a plea to make sure that the individual, that people can understand the material you're trying to get out there. It needs to be written at about a 5th grade level. And that's really critical because most of the stuff that we get from government agencies is written way too high. Even people with associate's degrees and bachelor's degree, we still need to pitch it at about 5th grade level.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, and thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate that, and certainly sometimes when I look at guidance documents, I have I'm a physician with a specialty in infectious disease, and I have trouble sort of parsing everything sometimes because of how granular it can be written.
Yeah.
So I think the simpler the better.
Right. Especially when you're trying to read outside of your area of expertise. Anyway, thanks so much.
okay. We do have some questions in the chat that from one of the groups is asking is with these this forgive me because I'm trying to read it at the same time, lack of energy. When you're reaching your targets for the IPC or anything with education, are you going to be working with other hospitals outside the agencies?
So I don't believe, I mean, our approach has really been focused more on partnering with the agencies. So, with IAC as well as our colleagues at New York State, OPWDD to sort of reach these group homes. I am not, what we're doing right now is not focused on sort of the acute care hospitals, although certainly if you all think that there, may be opportunities to, use them to leverage them to get the word out, I'm certainly open to that. But right now, I think it's really more just the agencies in terms of our sort of recruitment approach.
And the second question is there any training on this for parents who are dealing with some of this?
There's not, and I think this sort of highlights some of the difficulties in terms of CDC guidance. There really is sort of a need for increased training in these kind of in between type settings. I think the CDC does a pretty good job of talking about what to do and training sort of healthcare workers in acute care hospitals. They do, have pretty good resources about what to do in the community to protect yourself. But, I think there's really still a need for a lot of these areas like IDD group homes that are, kind of adjacent to healthcare where people might have sort of multiple, sort of significant medical needs, and how do we sort of bridge that gap? So that's one of the things that we're hoping to really use to inform our advocacy, is to say that, here's a whole area that is really sort of not being well taken care of by the current guidance.
That's all I have from in the chat. Thank you.
Great.
Since no one else has any questions for them, we'll proceed. But before you proceed out, can you unshare so I can reshare
Sure.
that? Thank you.
Absolutely. And before we log off, I just wanted to say, thank you again for having us on, and really appreciate the thoughtful questions and feedback as well. So that's super helpful for us as we plan the next phase of this. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for
everyone.
taking the time.
Thank you very much. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're up to IEC from Mary, and I know she's here.
I'm here. Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's all
Good
yours,
morning,
Mary.
everyone. It's nice to see all my friends and colleagues from Brooklyn today, or at least your initials. So thank you for having me. It'll be a quick report today. I'm just really going to share with you Tom's notes from the most recent Provider Association meeting. Also, just want to remind everyone, if you haven't heard, there is a retirement party for Tom this Thursday to thank him and show appreciation for his 40 years of commitment to working in this field. And if there's anyone who's interested in attending still, the information can be found on our website at iacny.org. Okay, so the last Provider Association meeting was on October 18th. The Commissioner, Kerry, informed everyone that OPWDD is on target with their presenting of the 507 plan to the governor and the legislators by 11/1. There was a letter of interest issued to providers, or a request for a letter of interest issued to providers to help identify residential and housing opportunities. That is moving forward, really targeting development for individuals who are aging out of state schools and in state schools also, but that seems to be the real identified need group for placement. In addition to discussing options for those individuals coming from out of state, providers address the needs for certain individuals currently in residential settings who need more support from crisis intervention teams. The Commissioner heard concerns and will continue to look for ways to leverage the existing mobile crisis teams to expand their limited reach. Rate updates. Kevin Valencia spoke to the 5 rate packages that have been stalled for the last number of many months. The 7/1/21/2 from transportation calculations and the 11/1/22 rate updates are being loaded and should be released next month, hopefully earlier than later. Excuse me. The 4/1/22 rates are at Department of Budget and have been flagged for priority review. They're hoping to move that rate package through as soon as possible. The COVID heroes and vaccine bonuses and the bonuses for staff in the FIDA programs, PHP, are approved and should be released within the next month, with PHP bonuses moving through their additional processes. Communication for posting will be sent via OPA. When asked, Kevin will look into the reported glitches in the mental health care worker bonuses. Kevin also spoke to the new rate formulas that will be tested with the new additions of people into the system. It appears that after some additional tweaking, the first look at the draft rates will come early next year. The rate reform work group will be reconvened for their review. Concerns were raised by more than one provider association rep about the use of the CAS, especially in the earliest rounds of the assessments. People remember that there were a lot of flaws noted in the CAS assessment, and then when errors were noted, it was almost next to impossible having them corrected. The Commissioner stated that they are already having internal conversations about the CAS and will engage with our group as they complete their internal review. The Provider Association stated that was needed prior to the rate reform discussion. Kate Marley introduced the discussion of the HCBS rating settings rule, reminding providers that the permanent regulatory guidance will be in place as of March 17th, 2023. During the Anchor Conference, representatives from ACL and CMS both emphasized that enforcement is expected in the states. OPW's DQI unit will be conducting those reviews. And for any of you who attended DQI's fall provider training yesterday, that was one of the hot topics that they were discussing about the HCBS settings, really providers needing to have all those in effect by March. There are 2 areas of concern that CMS expressed to OPWDD. in their overview of New York State, which was access to the community, and employment initiatives for people with developmental disabilities. Megan O'Connor mentioned that there will be a provider training. There was yesterday, where further discussion about how providers can work to be in compliance for March. There's a toolkit also on OPWDD's website to help providers to get into compliance with the HCBS settings. The public health emergency has been extended through 1/11/23, and thus the Appendix K flexibilities continue for providers. 1115 waiver submittal is in the federal review. Kate stated that she is willing to have conversations with providers who are interested in pursuing the Health Equity Regional Organization. HERO will be the coordinating and planning entity in each region. The objectives including housing and other alternatives to long-term care. A few other quick items. The CROW work group, CROW Certified Residential Opportunities. The CROW is, for those who don't know, is the process the state has in place for placing people into residential programs. The CROW work group will be invited to a follow-up meeting in the near future. There's a lot of feedback from families and providers and self-advocates about that process. And even though it's something that OPWDD has put into effect, they are willing to work with all stakeholders to see if there can be reform made to that process. Hiram Murr is the new Chief Diversity Officer. She made a brief presentation, I'm sorry, I don't know if that's who that person is. Brief presentation about a future RFP for diversity, equity, and inclusion grants for agencies, and there's more to come there. Questions were raised about the new SCIP additions and a memo issued last month. Jill Pettinger will make herself available for discussion. Some feedback from providers has already been received by her office. Some progress on the allowance for unlicensed professionals who can now perform as part of the interdisciplinary team, such as a BIS staff. That's a bill in process, and they're working on the licensure exemption that went into effect back in June. Can have some negative impacts on the operations of the staffing used in our IDTs and the programs. So the OPWDD is looking on how to workarounds to allow BISs to continue being part of the interdisciplinary team, both in programs and Article 6 teams. And that's my report. Be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Joyce, do you have any questions?
Well, I have two comments. One is on the 415.4 COLA, which still has not gone out to agencies. I know there were many agencies on this meeting, as well as outside, who are desperately waiting so we can pass along those increases to our direct support professionals. The bonuses are great, and most agencies have given them out, even though they haven't been reimbursed for that, but that's a one shot. The COLA would be an ongoing increase to their wage, and the fact that it was approved in April and still it's 6 months later and we still haven't received a penny of it to give out to staff is really unconscionable. And it's just a comment that, it's OPWDD workers who got a raise, got it in April. And here's the voluntary agency providers in almost what is November 1st now, waiting to give their staff that raise. There's a big disparity. So that, and
Agreed.
then, oh,
And in addition to the existing staffing crisis that providers are facing,
right, it only
it-
exacerbates it.
exactly.
When they can go to Target or McDonald's and make, $5 more than they're making now.
Agreed.
So there is such a desperate need for staff, and to be able to retain staff, it really is becoming a crisis. So I just wanted to comment on that. Thanks.
Mhm. Oh, agreed. It's very unfair, and it can't be. Agencies can't be expected to give out monies they don't have, to keep the status quo. So but the provider associations are really advocating on behalf of the providers on this issue, and from what I understand, Kerry is understanding and supportive, but at this point we need the money to be processed and released.
Yeah, exactly. And not knowing what the outcome, of the elections might be, although this was approved, and I guess it's in statute now, who knows what'll happen, right? I
Right.
mean, it's a little frightening. So thank you.
Agreed.
Deborah, you have a question?
Yes. When myself and my fellow advisory council members across the state went to testify, we knew that the OPWDD did not put in family support in the 507 plan. They said it was put back in, but we want to know, did you see that it was put back in? Because it's very important, because many agencies just do only family support services, and family support is like the starting gate for our families to come in.
Not that I'm aware of, Deborah, but I will double check with Winnie and Tom, and certainly, send you guys an email just to update you on that. The other thing about figure, and I agree with you 100% that family support is a in many instances is the way that families are able to keep their loved ones at home, and it's something that's very needed across the state, and we only want to see it grow and not diminish. So let me find out and get back to you on that one.
I appreciate that, Mary, because you see, I will say this. We, the members of the advisory councils, understand family support is one part, but the role that what was charged to us was that our role is to help families, one, keep their children at home, but the other one is eventually if they need to go to what's the right adult services for them, but also eventually into what's the appropriate residential placement down the long run. So I'd
Right.
appreciate if you could see that. I know Tom is retiring. He's always been a champion for us too. But please, like, even if you guys bring us advisory councils in so we can talk and set up, because we don't want to lose family support programs at all. We
Right.
understand the issues and the monies, but at the same time, we need the help. And we want to get the word out. We want to make sure OPWDD does the right thing, because family support services is in state legislation as well as our council. So I
Right.
thank you very much, Mary. Thank you.
Okay. And we're all on the same side with that, Deborah. The providers, we want to advocate for, and the providers want to advocate to be able to provide families with the option of support services for a variety of reasons.
And we thank you very much. We do appreciate when I tell my fellow council members, they'll be very happy to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mary, the shocking part is there is no questions in the chat for you, unfortunately.
Well, it's a happy shock, I'll tell you that. And thank you for having me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, and happy Halloween.
Yes, happy
Stay
Halloween. Don't
safe
eat too
on
much candy.
stay safe on Halloween, Mary. Please
Yes,
do.
you too. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Now moving on to OPWDD, Brooklyn DRO. Is it Lucy or Nina?
Good morning. It's me.
Okay, who is me?
Good morning,
And you know I'm just joking.
everyone. Yeah. You know what? I think Mary gave a very good and detailed update. I would like to add to what she said about the age out LOI that OPWDD issued for providers for students that are aging out of residential school. That in addition to what she said, first of all, the provider agencies were trained. There was a training last week, Friday, about what it entails. And as well as there's an incentive payment of $100,000, one flat payment that is going to be given to the agency to be used as a transitional cost for those individuals that are transitioning. That money can be used to hire additional staff, or they can use it to hire clinical staff, or to be used as a raise, but it's only a one-time payment, for the agencies. And in order to receive the money, the individuals have to be placed no later than 9/15/2023. So these are for individuals that were not able to, that were matched, and they're going to be graduating by July 2023. Additionally, there's also another payment of $30,000 through voluntary preservation funds that's going to be given to the agency if any kind of modifications need to be made to the setting that the individuals are going into. So the proposals are due back to us by November 2nd, 2022. And those agencies should be able to hear back from OPWDD by January 31st, 2023. So the other updates that I have is it's been brought to our attention that family members who have OPWDD waiver services and they're interested in receiving receiving personal care or consumer directed assistance programs, CDPAP, are being told that they have to get out of, they have to remove code 95 OPWDD and be terminated from OPWDD waiver before they can receive that services. So it's been coming up to attention. So OPWDD met with the Department of Health to talk about it, and it was agreed that that should not be occurring. If anyone is in the waiver and they're also interested in receiving personal care services, the two can coexist. They don't have to disenroll from OPWDD services before they can receive that service. So if that's happening, it should be brought to our attention. However, if family members understand that, once they remove code 95, they will no longer be able to get OPWDD services, and they still want to go ahead and remove OPWDD service code 95, that's fine. As long as they understand that they're not going to be able to receive waiver services if that's removed. Additionally, there's a project that's going on right now that's called the DayHab Enrollment Project. And what that means is that, currently what we have is that, individuals that are attending day programs are enrolled in one master list code. So as a result of COVID, we were able to find that, we didn't really know where people were. A lot of people that were in site-based programs in different locations there was nothing in the system that was, able to tell us, there was no report that we could pull up that would tell us the individuals that were enrolled in particular, programs. So as a result of that, DQI is working with the agencies to begin to enroll individuals into specific codes, especially so the codes that are being generated. We're giving agencies site-based program codes, and they have Without Walls program codes, and they have supplemental site-based as well as they have supplemental Without Walls codes, so that this way individuals will be able to be enrolled in the appropriate code program that they're in. So, and that agencies were also trained this past Monday on the 24th, and that process is gone into effect beginning on the 24th of October 24th. So that moving forward, anyone who is enrolled in the day program, they will be specifically enrolled in the code that they're supposed to be in, rather than just a general, master code that doesn't really identify the location where the individuals are. The way OPWDD authorizes service, we're authorizing services specifically, so if somebody comes to us, we're approving them for either site-based or we're approving them for Without Walls program. So that's already in place. Is the enrollment that wasn't, firm before. So, but moving forward, everyone will be, enrolled in the appropriate program codes. Agencies were trained and they know what to do. We have a number for them, incident.management@opwdd.ny.gov, if they have any questions that they can direct their questions to. I believe that's the update that I have. I don't know if anybody has questions.
Lucy, before we proceed with questions, can you repeat that link again, please, but very slowly and clearly?
You know what? Why don't I put it in the chat?
I was just going to say that too, but you second my motion.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Lucy. I appreciated the report.
Sure.
I do. Thank you.
Joyce, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Hi, Lucy. Thank you very
Joyce.
much for that report.
Mm-hmm.
My question is on the LOI for the aging out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this nice $100,000 one-time incentive, right? And we know that some of the individuals coming back from out-of-state schools have sometimes quite challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens after the year and we've hired, or an agency has hired 3 or 4 staff and with that money, but yet that staff is still needed to remain to work with the individuals? How does the agency then support that staff needed?
So my understanding is that, whatever that individual is supposed to have, they can still have. If they need to get high needs funding, that can be applied for. This 100,000 is only a one-time payment, and it's supposed to be used for transitional purposes. So it's not ongoing. It's just to, whatever is required to transition them into that setting and to make them comfortable. That's what that money is for. The other monies that they're supposed to be getting, that will continue and that will not be affected in any way, not even by the $100,000.
So if they need higher needs funding, then that can be applied for at the same time or before they enter the residential setting.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before
May I ask a question?
Can you guys hold on one second, please? Unless you have your hand raised, there are 2 people's hands are up.
And I see Mary came back. Mary, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I know. Because I was just going to say, Mary's asking me, can she go ahead quickly because she has something wants to add in. Then it will be Deborah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to, hi, Lucy. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. I just wanted to ask, do you know, I know that there was a, excuse me, an informational session on Friday related to the letter of intent for the aging out folks. Do you know if that PowerPoint has been made available yet? Because a lot of people weren't able to attend.
So my understanding was that, it was going to be sent to the people that attended, but we've had a lot of inquiries about, getting that PowerPoint. At this point, we don't have it, but after this meeting, I can follow up to find out what the status is.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you,
Sure.
Lucy.
Deborah, Chair of the Advisory Council, you had your hand up, and then it'll be
Yes, I
Fran.
do. Okay, first, Lucy, as you know, yesterday I was in the statewide, so I'm not going to say the full thing, but I just want you to know that what you just spoke about with the aging out, they did address it briefly at the statewide because, of course, across New York State, many of our families have had to place their children in the out of state schools. So they did bring up everything you said, they said to us too. In reference with the CPAP, I didn't hear that before. And I would appreciate if you could, when you can, send the information to me for the advisory council so we can place it on and who we need to contact if there's a problem because of removing OPWDD services when they shouldn't be. Because you see, people don't understand. Our children have multiple needs, and to cut one thing off and then just for the other, it does not always work. So I'd appreciate it very much because we need to get the word out because I don't want anyone losing services they really need. And this way, parents who need to go to work but want their children living at home with them will get the appropriate care. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Chris, for some reason, I'm not able to to put it in the chat. I don't know what's going on. So I can give it to you.
Give me a moment. I'll write it out on the old-fashioned way, and then we'll take care of it the other way. Okay.
This is
What
questions
is
about
it?
the day program enrollment. If agencies have questions or concerns, they can reach out to incident INCIDENT dot management at opwedd.ny.gov.
OPWDD dot, what was after OPWDD again, please?
ny.gov.
ny.gov. Okay, I'm going to repeat it back. Incident dot management at OPWDD ny.gov.
.ny.gov. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Yes.
You got it.
Dot after OPWDD, then ny, then .gov. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I will.
Just make sure that
Chris,
after the OPWDD, you have dots.
Yes, I
Okay.
do. Yes. Do you want me to try to get it in the chat, Chris, or not?
Yeah, check it out, please, because I think what's going on right now, there was a problem with the chat. Right now, it's been working fine on my end, but I am going to remind people that if you're putting chats into the private area, that is not going to work. It only works for two of the groups that are on here, which they don't want to be mentioned their name. So I have to keep them anonymous. Lucy, the next person's hand up is Fran. And then we have three questions for you.
Hi, Lucy. So nice to see your
Hi,
face.
Frank.
And just a quick question. Thank you for the information. And yes, Chris, the chat is locked. You can't write anything in it as a guest. But interesting enough, you did give us the email at the incident management, but you spoke about codes. Can I also request a list of the codes? We did not attend any provider training. I was not aware of it. So if there's anything that you could send in reference to these new codes and getting people in the programs, I'd really appreciate that. This is news to me.
Yes.
So that was my question. Any questions like that should be referred to incident.management?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. So this has been going on for a while. And so if you have side-based programs or supplemental side-based programs, I would definitely reach out to let them know that you're not aware of this information because it's been,
No, we're without
yeah.
walls. So you had mentioned without walls, and I just hadn't heard anything,
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
But it could be my fault. I'm not in
Yeah.
tuned with a lot of things, but thank you.
Sure.
And before we proceed to the questions on the chat, just to let everyone know, the chat is working fine. It's just that we did find out there was someone was putting something in the chat that I'm going to remind everyone. Please do not put chat information regarding something that's related that it's very seriously. If it's private, it needs to go to the private section of the chat.
I was able to put
Yes.
in
Mhm.
what the email address that Lucy just gave me. So
Mhm.
I did get it in
Put
the
it in
chat.
again.
So it's correct.
You what, Chris?
Mhm.
Okay, I got it
So,
in.
so let me get to the questions because I know and I'm going to be, and this is an easy question for you, Lucy. One of the groups has been saying to me they wanted to say thank you to you from last month's meeting regarding the front door session. It did help them and it did solve their question right there. So I just want to let everyone know that, Lucy, that was the other group. The other question is the main question that some of them have been asking is, can you explain what you just said a second ago, that code you mentioned?
Which one? The code, the consumer.
Code 95.
Oh, the
Code 95.
yeah. So everyone that's OPWDD eligible, they automatically have a code that's code 95 that's put on their Medicaid. And if they waiver enrolled, there's a code 46 that's in there. So what's been happening is that sometimes family members that want to get consumer directed personal assistant programs, CDPAP, or personal care. Some family members are being told that they cannot be enrolled in OPWDD waiver and have that service, but that's not correct. So sometimes it's not correct, that information, because what was happening was that we were getting a lot of parents that were coming to us and they were telling us that they wanted to disenroll from waiver so that they can go into they can have consumer directed services and be enrolled in long-term managed care. So that long-term managed care, MLTC, that's kind of is a separate program. If someone wants to enroll in that, it's okay. You cannot have that and be in OPWDD. But there are two ways that you can get personal services. You can get it through MLTC, or you can get it through other agencies that are kind of like a fee for service agencies. So you don't necessarily, the whole point of this is that, people don't need to disenroll from their OPWDD services in order to receive personal care services. The agencies that can provide that, and the family members can still have OPWDD services. However, if family members no longer are interested or don't want OPWDD waiver services anymore, then that's fine. They can go into manage long-term services. I don't know if I'm confusing, if that's clear.
Lucy, Lucy, actually, that makes perfect sense. They're just saying thank you. I'm just reading what they're saying back to me. They're saying thank you.
Okay, good.
It's just that two people in that group didn't understand it. So you just proved someone right. To answer someone else's question on the chat, and I will be defending Lucy and Angela Blades on this because this is a question that is actually silly, and I want to make this clear. Their emails are on our website, so I'd like to remind everyone, if it's a family support issue or concern, please email them. But I am going to remind you, because Albany has mentioned this already, and I will defend Lucy, Nina, and Angela, and everyone. They cannot answer like a snap of your finger. You got to give them at least a day or two. If it's a holiday or weekend, let's please have a little courtesy, because they're dealing not just one job, they're dealing with multiple jobs. So this is the one question that came in, so I'm just adding that in. And just let everyone know, it's in the chat. Angela did put her email address on, and I thank her very much, because any questions needs to be go on an email. It will go quicker and faster.
That's correct. Yes.
So I just want to make that very clear. Since that is the last question, since there's no one else has their hand up or any questions, I want to say thank you, Lucy, so much. And please send regards to Nina and Delia Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It's good to be here again.
Mm-hmm. We'll see you next month. And let me move on to our favorite part of the day, the chairperson's report. First, we'll start with Deborah and then Joyce. So, because Deborah has a very hot topic in her report. So, Deborah, you ready? Let's rock and roll.
Okay, first I want everybody to understand, whether parents, professional, OPWDDs, I just got this information yesterday. Nothing was given to me the day before. I want you to know, and I came back far later at night than I thought I would. Because the statewide for a while was meeting virtually. But we did meet in person. Most of the members were there as well. Our commissioner was not there, but we had Roger Beard, we had Nick Hobson, we had everybody else was there. And our chair is Christopher Pelegia. He's our chairperson now. The biggest topic that we were really discussing for a long time was the new ADM on reimbursement. I am not answering any questions about how to fix it or not, because we got OPWDD, and this also included in the public session, the agencies who do reimbursement, the CCOs that help the families, the advisory councils, and I'm not just talking about Brooklyn, I'm talking across all of New York State. There are so many questions. There's so many misunderstandings. One big misunderstanding that I was trying to clear up is, since reimbursement is a family support program, and they kept saying to us we have to have level of care, but what happens if the individual lives at home with mom and dad or other family member and doesn't have a care manager? I said, does that mean we can't apply for it? And we were told, no, we can't. But one thing we got them to understand is the way they're saying you have to justify certain things. They want us to explain clinically wise, and we brought up it costs money for us to do it. We understand it's not an entitlement. We know it's not going to always happen, but the way they rewrote it has made so many hurdles. In fact, we gave them a couple of perfect examples. An individual explained that what happened, and we said there are many of our individuals, they can't tie shoelaces. They can't tie a tie. They have trouble cutting with a knife and fork because it's part of their developmental disability. They have fine and gross motor skills. Sometimes OT works, but sometimes it doesn't. And we also brought up that Medicaid doesn't always cover everything and we also brought up a very important issue about emergency respite, because we brought up, so you're saying say my mother got sick and it's an emergency, I got to go to the hospital, so I get reimbursed for the emergency care. You're saying that if another family member or they pass away and I have to go to the funeral and help and also do the mourning, that I can't get another emergency reimbursement? I didn't say it's all in the same year. And I was not the only family member of the councils that brought it up. So we also brought up to that you need to make it more clear about what's allowed and what's not allowed. But also you made it sound so impossible for families to apply for it. And it's also the care managers are having so much trouble. So we said we want much better training. We want better training of course, we want the agencies to get the training. We want to go line by line through actual the actual document for the reimbursement form. We want explanation of where we are supposed to get now we all understand about the original receipts. We do understand that. But what we can't figure out is, what do you mean you need medical? Where, from who, what? So there was no clear explanation. First, someone brought up, well, go to the pediatrician. Why should we go to the pediatrician if it's part of their developmental disability and their OT therapist is requesting it? So parents saying we have to spend extra money to go to the pediatrician. They said that's what after a while they say forget it. Many of our families are stretched to the brink of financial issues. We didn't even bring about the credit card debt 99% of our families are in because we have a child with developmental disability. We didn't say that reimbursement is the end all of all, but we said there was not enough clear training for the agencies, the, the care managers, and of course the families. And yes, we had in public session another parent who brought up crisis issue, and we had an agency who brought up that the form is very hard to read and negotiate. And they did agree with us that we're right. We have requested many more training sessions, and we also want to discuss everything. We also requested that when you make policy changes, you need a lot of parents on that committee, because policy changes on how family support services should have family input. That's why, and we need to advise. We're trying to advise them, so we all can understand. Now, I want everyone to understand. Please do not blame Angela Blades or Janet Davis, any other family support coordinator. They didn't write it. They got the same thing we did. And I want to know it because it's very important for you all to understand. Now, yes, you can contact Angela. She did leave her email in the chat, which I appreciate. I just want everybody also to know so they can say I never told them. The head family support coordinator, his name is Nicholas B. Hobson. Now I can put his name in the chat, the info to email him. Also, you can go to info@opwdd.ny.gov. Why? You need information, and all this information is also on OPWD's website, as well as the Advisory Council, because we have the link to go to the OPWDD's website. Now, I'm only giving a little bit because we're still trying to get more information. We were bringing up about the RFP for family support services. We know there's approximately 3.5 million. I'm only going to say what Region 4 has. Approximately, we have 37.49% of the 3.5 million. Approximately $1,308,025. Now, we also know in New York City, we have to break it down into the 5 boroughs. We brought that issue to them. So before anyone emails myself, Angela, Lucy, none of us know yet because they said, oh, you're right. Remember also New York City, Region 4 in family support or at home, we are in a different fiscal year than the rest of New York State. That means Long Island, you cross the border to go to Nassau, Suffolk, which is Long Island. Their fiscal year is from April 1st to March 31st. Us, New York City, we're July 1st to June 30th. Please remember the difference. And because they kept saying, well, upstate is finishing the third, they're going soon to the fourth quarter. Well, We in New York are just finishing our first quarter, going toward the second quarter. So if you're not sure, as again I said, we still are waiting for the correct breakdown. They couldn't give it to us at all. So we just want you to know that we are advocating very hard to make sure that the family support programs, especially if it's all across the state, are funded as best as we can get. We also know that we want you all to understand that we also brought up, you remember, COVID has affected many of the family support programs. They did acknowledge us. They did agree that we were correct about that. The other main issues I said is we were bringing up also, our chairperson did an excellent survey. I'm talking about Chris Pelagia from the statewide. He did in reference to how well family support services help families as well as the agencies, because it's a wonderful gateway into the OPWDD services. So they have agreed that they heard everything we said. We also want you to know that we normally used to meet from 10:30 in the morning to approximately 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We took a small work break for lunch, but we also explained to him we need more time. Why? There's so many important family support service issues. Yes, we do know the statewide family support is a subcommittee of the statewide Developmental Disability Advisory Council. Our chairperson, Chris P., is a member of that statewide. We also are trying to get them to understand, and we think they heard us, we hope they've heard us, how important it is for us to make sure that we have more open dialogues between us. We have requested regular meetings. Now, one thing did originally stop us is that once the governor took away the emergency, that they said that that we all had to meet in person, or we had to have a minimum of, well, we have approximately 19 members. So we need approximately 10, but now we're down one or two because a few parents stepped down for the statewide and not in New York City. This is upstate, and we're working on that to make sure we're back at full strength. But we'll soon be working, because we did bring up that we have to have a public session, because you see, if we're supposed to do the open sunshine laws, open meeting laws, it means that once we have a public session, so we hear from advocates, especially our individuals, and the families are very important, and the agencies that are watching. Yes, but once we go into executive session, and this is the same for the other O agencies that have advisory councils, and this is the same for also in New York City, the local community boards. There is a public session once, excuse me, all right, please mute. That if we go
1 second, Madam Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Chris, but I do need to remind people with their microphone touching, please move away from your microphones, please, because that is showing disrespect for the chairperson's reports. Deborah, can you finish up, because we do need to finish up. Thank you.
But we want everybody to know that we are insisting on a much longer meeting because we want the public session. We want to make sure that we give you time. But what I was saying, once we go into executive session, and that's true for any open meeting law, that then the public cannot speak unless the chairperson has recognized or has agreed to that. With that, we are supposed to meet again in December. We are advocating very hard to be more than 2 hours so we can actually get more information and more family support issues taken care of. So that's the end of my report. And if anybody has questions, I'll answer the best I can. Does anyone have any questions?
We're holding on to questions. Let Joyce come in, please.
Sure, Joyce. Do you have something to ask me, Joyce, too?
No,
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you, Joyce.
no.
No one else? Anyone else?
Okay, Madam Chair, you didn't hear me. it's now let Joyce do her report. We're holding on to questions till you both are done. Joyce?
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I want to say good morning to everybody and thank you for staying on the meeting. I want to remind everybody to vote November 8th. Or if you're doing absentee ballot voting, it's very important that everybody cast their ballot and vote on November 8th. So please make sure you vote. Okay, so I mentioned before about the 5.4% COLA. Hopefully we'll hear something soon on that. But we are in a staffing crisis, and we're hoping that will help resolve some of it. It won't, it's not the be all and end all, because we still can't compete with McDonald's and Target paying several more dollars an hour than our agencies can. You know, so we hope with the budget coming out next year, we, some of that is addressed. We know that advocacy agencies are meeting with different facets of the governor's office now and discussing this. So we hope that once and for all, this the need will be addressed in next year's budget. I also wanted to mention or just back up what behind Deborah, that the family support services is such a lifeline to the families, and it's so important that we understand and how to process or look at reimbursement forms and the programs that we can continue to support families so they can get a break. And we hope that that will continue and be funded the way it needs to be. So thank you, Deborah, for that report. We also, we had talked a while ago about perhaps doing some kind of fair in the spring. So we are trying to work on that, and I would encourage anybody who's interested in working with us on that to please email Chris to let us know. It takes a lot more than just Chris, Brian, Deborah, and myself to put together a family support fair, and we would hope that we get some volunteers to work with us. It's a big undertaking, and when we've done it before very successfully, so we know what to do. We just need the manpower to support us. So thanks to people who might sign up to assist with that. And that's my report for today, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Brian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick update. Coming off the backs of what Mary said and the OPW update, an email had just come through, so it's hot off the presses for agencies that incentive 1 and incentive 2, the COVID service and vaccination payments are loaded, and agencies can now log on to the HCRA pools to see the money coming to them. And usually that means they have it within a few days to a week. So that is good news that agencies it's now official that money's been loaded and can see it and get that money and distribute if they haven't already.
That is great news, and I like the way we said it. Breaking news. Breaking news. So that is a good thing. Any other questions, Brian?
Not for me, thanks.
Oh, I'm just double checking. Deborah just put in the email, the email, and I know Lucy just put something else in also. So I do want to let everyone know, please check your chat, please. Also, as a lot of people are putting information into the chat, so please make sure you share, copy and paste it to your screen on that. Since I'm going to check with the questions, let me just double check. Okay. There is a question for okay. There is a question for Joyce, Deborah, and Brian. Okay, for Deborah, I'm going to answer that one in a minute. But Joyce and Brian, can you guys put your email address in, please, if they want to volunteer for this resource fair that you guys are talking about?
Yeah, we can enter it into the chat.
Thank you. Now I have a question for Deborah, statewide.
Okay.
The question is they did see the video yesterday, and we definitely agree what you're saying, and we definitely agree with Joyce Levin also that this is the time we need to all work together. But I definitely agree. Why they only think of 2 hours? Are they thinking we're like you guys are like superheroes, faster than a stealing bullet? And
I'll answer that fast.
Go ahead.
Okay. They were doing that for the few years when we had to do remote. And yes, every time we finished, we did put in, this is not enough time to address each issue. So if anybody agrees with that, please email Nick Hobson as well as the info at opwdd.ny.gov. Please let them know that you would like to see more than a 2-hour meeting, because you're right, Family Support Services is very important. It is the gateway into OPWDD services. And thank you and we do really need your help. And it doesn't matter what language. There's many ways for you to communicate with whatever languages you speak or write. So we appreciate all your help and support. Thank you. What's the other question?
I already answered them.
Oh, good. Okay.
The answer to the questions already on the chat as Joyce, Brian, and Deborah's emails are there. And I'd like to remind everyone their information is always available. So.
And yes, please, everybody, volunteer. It is very important for us to be able, when we do the fair, we have to work together as a team, because the information is important for us families, but also the other agencies, and just as important is our care coordinators, who need all the extra information. And also we need to get the other systems that do work with our population to know what help we need, or what help they can give us, or what help we can give them. So please participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Since there's no other questions, Joyce, Joyce, it's back to you on the subcommittee reports.
Okay, well, I know the transition folks couldn't make it, but Chris, you had a report?
Actually, yeah, I was there, so I can do a quick one, but I just want to let everyone know that I did attend. I know Carrie Banks was there as well. I did attend the transition council meeting, and I have to say it was very well attended. We did have a assembly person actually there on the meeting. She's definitely interested, Joyce and Brian and Deborah, to meet with us, discuss some of the issues, because it seems since we do this recording and it does go into the YouTube channel and to the website, she's been very fascinating of how our councils, and I say the word councils with an S, active. And the one thing I will say is we do definitely need a lot of you parents, agencies to try to please attend. The next meeting is November 17th. That is the Zoom link. And I remind everyone, come with your information, come with ideas, thoughts, because we need to make sure that the future of kids are in District 75, getting the right information, the right services, and everything from A to Z. So that's all I had from the transition meeting, and I have to say it was really well attended and very, very good to see. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Provider information.
Yeah, Chris, just one thing I wanted to add. If anybody knows of families whose children are going to a non-district 75 or in a special community special ed, please let them know about this meeting too, so that we don't let those children fall through the cracks. Provider information. Is Rose here?
No. Can
Rose?
you?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Again, this time I'm Deborah Greff, co-chair of the Family and Provider. We met on October 12th. I'm going to keep it short to the point. We had an excellent meeting. We brought up different issues that are affecting the providers and, of course, the families. So we do know that in November, we're going to have, and it's going to be Wednesday, November 9th, 9:45, and we're supposed to have Paula Martinez Boone. No, I said she'll be speaking on guardianship and other issues that we have to deal with our with for both families and professionals to understand what help we need. So we appreciate that Paula will be there. Also, yes, a big issue is the current new ADM for reimbursement. And yes, we will be getting. We're trying very hard to get speakers, but also we're trying to get LPWDD to update and set up more training and meeting sessions. So please, hope everybody will come. It was a very good meeting. Rose and I are working very hard because we know there's so much information that the families and the providers need. Okay? Thank you.
And just to remind everyone, both of these schedules are visit our website that is on the subcommittee page area. The meeting links are there as well. So please remind yourselves to pass the word to your families and let's see them attending as well as you guys, the agency. So please pass the word out. So moving on to our part of our next agenda, since no one else has additional, I'm going to move on to the Advisory Council outreach update. As we are working as a team, I want to remind everyone the next outreach update is November 2nd. That is correct. The FDNY Fire Safety Education Unit will be joining with us and giving a great fire safety education training. So everyone, I hope to see everyone attend because as we're coming into the winter cold seasons, we need to prepare for fire emergencies. And that could be even during a severe storm because there's been a lot of fires in the areas in New York as well as out of New York. So we just want to make sure that everyone is getting their fire tips. They have attended the District 75 Transition Welcome Back to School, and they've been giving out a lot of good tips, and they've been doing a lot of information encouraging people fire safety. So please make sure that you are try to attend that as well. Now, as Joyce mentioned, and I like to appreciate that very much, it's very important to please make sure that you are voting. These are early voting schedules. You can visit the findmypolingsite.voting.nyc. Now, if some of you guys have gotten your absentee ballot just say the next couple of days, you don't need to worry about mailing them. You can bring it to any polling site or someone, and I can say someone can bring it to that polling site and put it in the box that will be transported to the Board of Election. So you do have that optional as well. Or you can attend, or you can try to go to any of these days to vote. Now, if there's any errors on your voting information, you need to change it. Please make sure you see any of the poll workers that represent that ED table as well. If there's any complaints and you feel like the board that polling site is not giving your right to vote or showing disrespect to you, the phone number is in the bottom. I will suggest to contact the Manhattan number because that's the central command center for all 5 boroughs. And you can put your complaint in there. They take it very seriously. As Ariel, who was with us a couple of years ago, talked about accessibility, it's very important as well. So please make sure, as Joyce has said it, I know Deborah agree with me, Brian, you agree with me, please go out and vote. We don't need to know who you're voting for. Just make sure the accessibility voting counts as well. That is very important. Now, I do want to remind everyone who's been asking me this question since day one, baby stroller pilot is still in effect from now until April of 2023. The buses that are representing is only, and I'm going to say Brooklyn is the B1. You will have an access to where the stroller will be is. It will be near the single seats. You will see the third spot open where there's no chair. That's where the walker can go in. Also, the other 2 seats are for the walkers. Walker can be parked in or a baby stroller can be parked in. But I will remind everyone, if you don't see this logo, that means that bus is not doing the stroller pilot. It is in the other boroughs, as you see on the routes. And yes, it's in Staten Island. It does go to the Staten Island Developmental Center, so they got a little fun time over there as well. So please, as a reminder, everyone, to please do your part and please pass this out to the early intervention children as well. Now, very interesting picture that's popping up in just a second. And some of you have been emailing me this. And I know everyone, Nikolai's this young lady, which I think we all know, it's Deborah Greif. And she's welcoming the Omni Reduced Fare because there are two ways, the app or the card. And I'm going to remind you, this is for reduced fare. This will be the very, very first time that anywhere in the world and the United States that this will be shown. Deborah's video is on the MTA website as well. And we're encouraging everyone, this is from MTA, to please update make sure that everyone who has a reduced fare card now, doesn't matter if you're a senior or disabled, please make sure your information is up to date. And please make sure you pass that along to anyone. The MTA government relation is going to be starting up this going to senior centers and yes, to some agencies. Once we're getting closer to the date of we're switching, we can do that presentation on that as well. So please stay tuned for that. And always, please make sure that you are always set. Now, remind everyone on our advisory council, as I mentioned before, information is available on our website and you can email us. So some of your announcements that you have today, please make sure that you visit the website, which is there, www.bfssac.com, or email us at yahoo.com. Our new phone number is still there. We do return calls between the hours of 9:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. So please make sure if this is Advisory Council business or DJ Council, you can still call that number. And if you're emailing, we will make sure that Joyce O'Brien or Deborah gets that message and will be forwarded to them ASAP as well. So please make sure everyone, let's stay tough, stay Brooklyn tough. That. Now, does anyone have any questions on what I have said already? And I'm checking right now because I saw something. Okay, then I'll move on since we're really doing good at this moment. Do we have any elected official representative here? Can you please unmute and please identify yourself? Okay, so at this moment, since we don't have any representative elected officials, it is time for our announcements. So therefore, if you have an announcement, please raise your hand. So therefore, I can call on you. And our first person starting on the batting is Dolores Kahn.
Hi everyone. My name is Doris Kahn, and I'm the outreach coordinator for New York State Institute on Disabilities. We're a family support agency, and I just want to review the services that we provide. We provide evaluations for individuals who live in Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island, and Queens who do not have Medicaid for the purpose of obtaining OPWDD eligibility. For more information and application, please call Elizabeth Sunshine at 917-699-6457. We also provide crisis management services for individuals living in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. And you can contact Juliet Hawkins at 917-524-4856. NYSED also provides reimbursement for goods, services, and camp in all families who live in all 5 boroughs. Please contact Jackie Tripodi at 929-202-1115. I just want to mention that for reimbursement is a application, has its own application. So anyone who's interested in reimbursement has to use the OPWD application for reimbursement. We also provide tickets for outings for individuals living in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens and Staten Island. Please contact Sarah Alton at 718-494-6457. NYSED also provides free transportation for medical appointments or recreational outings if the individual lives in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Staten Island. Please call John O'Grady at 917-747-9424. I put all this information in the chat, and I hope it's helpful to everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I go to the next person, Joyce, I know you have to run. Do you think you have something you want to add?
No, thanks, Chris. So everyone have a happy Halloween and stay safe. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Joyce. Dolores, there's no questions for you at this moment, so thank you so much.
Wait. Hi, I have one question regarding the Omni reduced fare.
I did ask anyone that, Dolores, I'm going to have to wait till we finish announcements because I did.
Oh, okay, sure. I just have one more question about that.
I did
Sure.
ask this question earlier. Did anyone have any questions?
Right. I just thought of something. Okay.
All that thought. So we'll get to that. Let me get to announcement because we do have people's hands up. And I want to get them. And I'll repeat again. If you guys all of a sudden have a question about it, I will go back to that in a little bit. Just want to get the announcements because the hands are up. Carrie Banks, aka 2022.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to let people know about some things coming up at the library. First and foremost is our monthly one-to-one assistance navigating disability systems will be on November 10th this year. That's a Thursday, and it's the second Thursday, so we are really off our pattern. So pay attention, folks. If you've got questions about special education services, about DD services for children under the age of 22, if you are, having difficulty navigating SSI, again, for children under the age of 22, you can either come in person to our central library, or you can arrange to have a phone conversation with Ruth DeRoma from Include NYC. So this is a really important resource for families, and I would appreciate your help getting the word out. I put the information in the chat earlier. I will put it in again, and Chris, I will make sure I send it to you after the meeting. So there's that, and also just to let people know that in-person programs are back, inclusive in-person programs for children with and without disabilities at the Flatlands branch, starting in mid-November. So thank you for all that, and I look forward to hearing from you. I'll put my contact information in chat again, so if you have questions. If you have questions now, let me know. Otherwise, shoot me an email or give me a call later on. Thank you.
Carrie, just letting you know there's no questions at this time.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
No
And
problem.
it's good to see everyone.
Yes, and good to see you soon in person.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, let me move on to Fran from City Access. Do you have an announcement?
Hi, sorry, just trying to unmute. I basically did put it in the chat. City Access New York does have openings for day hab without walls. There to contact Jennifer Acevedo. You can call our office at 718-285-6548. I would like to say that, we have an amazing vocation program, and our program is basically within our Day Hab Without Walls. And we have really placed many individuals, and they're working. And I hope that everyone else is having, the same excitement about having our individuals reach their maximum independence and the importance of that. So that's basically what I have. And thank you. I haven't been to a meeting. I didn't join last month's meeting, so I'm glad to be back and look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Fran. And just to remind everyone that our meeting schedules are always available on our website. And when you email the advisory council, you'll see a scheduled meeting when it comes a message coming right back at you. So please pay close attention to those, because that's two optionals of ways of tracking when the meetings are. The full schedule is on the website as you go on to joint meetings page on the advisory email. So now I'm going to move on to our, Brian, do you have an announcement from Heaven's Hands?
We do have some availability in Dayhabs. We have a Dayhab program in Sunset Park and a Dayhab program in Brownsville on East 98th Street. You can email intake@hhcsny.org if interested. Thank you.
And Brian, can you put that in the chat, please?
Of course.
Thank you, sir. Let me just move on down. I know I saw Matthew from YAI. I know you're here. Of all the time, this thing. Sorry, guys. As usual. Jamming system. Jams? Matthew from YEI, are you there? Matthew from YEI, I know you're here. I can see your name. Otherwise, okay. Let me repeat this one more time. Does anyone else have an announcement? Because yes, it's good to put in the chat, but also announcing is very important as well. Since if no one else has an announcement, I am going to go back to Dolores Khan's question that she asked. And you're muted. And the reason I'm going to remind everyone that's
Chris, thank you. I'm going to hold my question for the next time because I might get answered. So to me, another from somewhere else. So I'll hold my question. If it's still a question,
well,
I'll
what is
ask
the
it next
question?
time.
You already got me
Thank
here.
you.
So let's.
Well, I wanted to know the Omni for reduced fare. I thought they were also going to be issuing a card. There's some people they are. So do you know when that's coming? Because there's some people when you register, they asked if you wanted a card. They don't want to use their phone, or maybe they don't have a debit card, but they want to have an actual card.
And I'm going
to be able to
have a little
bus
fun
and
with you,
train.
Dolores, and everyone else who really didn't pay close attention to my report.
That's why I said I wanted to hold my question
because it's not just you, Dolores. There are other boroughs, and I will say this. First, I want to thank Heaven's Hands because they did defend me in one meeting, so I do want to say thank you.
I'm sure
but let me make this very
very
clear. Right now, you have to make the choice of the app or the card. It is on that link.
Right.
If you do not choose,
and the person
hold on.
Right. The people I know
jamming up.
Right.
If you don't, you have to choose one of them, and you have to make sure that your information is up to date. Their email address is linked. So I am going to remind everyone, if they already have an email and it's already with Accessorize, they can combine it to the Omni account. Just got to put it in, choose the card or the app, you're done. Then you just have to wait for step 2, which we're not going to mention today because that will take me another 25 minutes to an hour or half to break it down. But I'm going to remind you that the Queen's Fair, they will be with me there. with reduced fare and system-wide accessibility will be joining with us there. So questions on those families can still answer. I've been to a lot of the boroughs already mentioning this, and it's still going in effect. If I was everyone to study more of this information, go to omni.info or visit our website, which is on the transportation page. That will give you all the details. So I hope that helped everyone's questions on that.
Thank you, Chris, for being so patient with all our questions.
The main
Yes, thank you, Chris. But he is very patient. I just want you to know it is a new system coming in. It had to also be tested before. So please understand it's not that we don't want I would love everybody to have it right now, but we wanted to test to make sure it really works.
No.
Go
I'm
ahead,
just checking
Chris.
the email. I'm just checking the chat. Since no one else has an announcement, wanted to make a motion to adjourn.
One moment. First,
Well,
I wanted
I think Brian
Brian
just made a motion because he just waved his mug up, so that's a good sign.
Okay, excuse me. Excuse me. As chairperson, I have the priority now. As chair, I want to first of all echo something that Joyce Levin said. I hope everybody is voting. It is very important to cast your vote. Remember, 100 years ago, women were not allowed to vote. I'm not going to go into the whole history, but even people with disabilities were not allowed to. Do not give up that precious freedom and you have to make sure, because if we're not careful, we could lose those rights. As you see, some of the rights they've been trying to take away from us. So I want to thank everybody. Please vote. Please, everyone, go to the meeting, come to all our meetings. And if you want to help us with the Family Support Fair, please let us know. To reach me, you reach me through the Advisory Council email. I see Janet Davis. Janet, do you want to say anything? She's our Family Support Coordinator from New York City. Hi. Chris, unmute her, please.
I'll control the mute
Trying
button.
to say.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I have nothing to add. It's been a great meeting and everybody really had great input. So thank you.
Thank you. And as you heard what I said about the ADM for reimbursement, I hope, and let me add Janet too. Angela, please don't be angry at them. They did not write this ADM up. Came out of Central. And there wasn't really a lot of parent involvement or input. So please, everyone, you can help us by emailing Albany and let them know what the issues are, the true issues. We'd appreciate that. That's a big help. They need to know the examples. So even if it's long, go ahead, email them away. Thank you. Okay, with that, Chris, yeah, Brian, I can, go ahead, heard some. And everybody have a safe and happy Halloween. And whoever goes to the Queens Family Support Fair, we all hope to see you there. I'm going there because I'm helping Mr. Greif and the MTA with letting them get there super early with my accessory. So I'll be there as a parent. See everybody. Thanks again. Everybody, please be safe on Halloween. Thank you so much. Chris?
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, everyone, and enjoy the week.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.